Whatever I said I wanted contradicted with everything that I was doing to myself. I said that I wanted to be an artist and become the greatest artist coming from Belgium, but when it was time to sit down and do the work, I couldn't. I thought for a very long time that it was a discipline problem. So I took my responsibility and started to improve my discipline for a couple of years. But despite having improved my discipline, it didn't change. I was still struggling. I was still having a hard time with sitting down and doing the work. That is when I realized that something is going on that is way deeper, that is on the surface level. After years of continuous self-reflection, I eventually found the answer to what was happening. And so I want to share that experience with you today. The reason why I struggled with being consistent when it came to music was because the desire that I had for music wasn't me. It was built off of a fear that I had for always thinking that I am not good enough. I wanted to be acknowledged. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be appreciated for who I was. But I had instilled the idea that I can achieve that through music because I looked at other people who were making music and their lives were good. And that was like the only exposure that I really had to people who were acknowledged. Like when you looked at a television, when you met people, they all praised artists. They all said like, oh, this person changed my life, this person this. So I had associated the thought of the idea of being an artist with meaning that you will be acknowledged. But the deeper issue here is that I was just insecure. I was insecure about who I was and about the impact that I could have. Because for most of my life at that point, from a young kid to a couple of years ago, I thought that I was not good enough. And the way for me to improve this was to stop hoping that other people need to validate me. You see, when you have always thought that you need external validation from other people, you start to think that that is the truth. But when you start chasing that, you'll eventually see and recognize that despite chasing that, you're not getting that what you want. That made me question, like, what is it that I have to do? I'm doing that what I thought would get me to be validated, that I thought would get me to be acknowledged. Still, I feel so empty. Still, I feel so lonely. Still, I feel so unhappy. And I had a hard time accepting it. I had a hard time accepting that despite chasing that dream of being an artist and being acknowledged, that it was not the thing that was going to get me to have exactly that. So that meant that I had to sit down and start acknowledging myself, regardless of what everybody else thinks of me. Upon hindsight, I now understand that nobody else can love me as much as I love myself. Nobody else. Nobody else can see my capabilities as much as I can see it myself. I had to look myself in the mirror and tell myself positive things. To disassociate from everything that I've heard for my entire life about me, of the negative things that people wanted to say about me. And so as I started to say affirmations, basically, to tell myself, you are good enough. You are working hard. You are doing that what is necessary within your skill capabilities. You are constantly learning. You are constantly growing. You are doing exactly just that you need to do for yourself. You don't have to be pleasing other people. The moment that I started to do that, and I kept doing that for 1.5 years consistently, it changed my entire perspective that eventually I stopped making music. I stopped chasing external validation from other people, and I started to make more decisions that were aligned to what I wanted and who I wanted to be. I felt free. I felt happier. Music was never going to be the thing that was meant for me because of the foundation that it had within me, the thought behind of it. It was because I saw other people having it. But deep down, it was not what I genuinely wanted to do. I just thought that this was the way to solve the internal issue that I was having within myself, which I wasn't even aware that that was the case. So of course I was inconsistent. Of course I couldn't show up. Because our minds and our bodies are way smarter than we are ourselves. And usually, like, the reason you are making a decision about certain things, the reason why you are not showing up, the reason why you avoid certain people, is from what I've experienced in my own life, is because there is something that you are ignoring, which is screaming at you, but you don't see it or you cannot accept it. It seems so silly that believing that to be the truth would change everything you know about yourself, and it will feel like you will have to start from scratch again. And maybe that's good. Maybe you have to start from scratch again. Maybe you have to build the new foundation for the house that you actually want to have, instead of living on the foundation in a house that is not even yours. Most of the time, what we will figure out and find out is that we are influenced by our environment. More often than we think, we look at the news, we look at social media, we talk to our parents, we talk to friends, we talk to a lot of people that have a specific view of life, of how it should be. But as ambitious people, more often than not, they are irrelevant to us. They do not align with the way that we see the world. The downside about that is that it makes it 10 times harder for us to connect with people, because we know that is not the case. And we try to help people and we try to wake people up, but we can't. We can't wake people up because they have to wake themselves up. If somebody truly believes that something is right, you can do whatever you want. They will always find an excuse, or let's say they will always find an answer to that what you are saying, even if you are making a lot of sense. Just because of the fact that they have believed something for so long, that now not believing it will have them question everything else about themselves. We as ambitious people, we want to do that, but other people don't want to do that. So this creates loneliness inside of us. Not only that, it also creates a sense of disassociation. And a lot of criticism comes our way. And we run the risk of being influenced by other people. So this is why we have to distance ourselves from most people. Me being a person who was influenced by the thought pattern and the vision that other people had about me and about life, and being a bit ignorant, as in, or let's say naive, for believing what they're saying is right, for not having done my own research, for not having experienced life myself, I eventually start to end up in this self-sabotaging, self-destructive lifestyle. Self-sabotage happens when you are ignoring a need that is happening inside of you. Self-sabotage is basically a coping mechanism. Because when you address the thing that is at the root of your issues, the root of your behaviors, you will stop self-sabotaging. So this is where you have to sit yourself down and ask yourself a very deep question. Who am I? Who am I? What is it that I genuinely love? What is it that I genuinely want to do? And the only way that you can find that out is by sitting by yourself, by sitting alone, and not having any sort of influence around of you. And the moment you have been able to do that once, you will be able to do that more often, repeatedly. And even if you are surrounded by other people, it will be easier for you to know who you are and know what you want to do. And then eventually you start making the decisions that are aligned to the person that you want to be, because that is authentically you. When I had uncovered that this was the root of my inconsistency, I genuinely didn't want to accept it because my ego stood in the way. My ego stood in the way. I was afraid of letting go of my identity. I was afraid of letting go of the person that I was and thought to be right. Everything that I've been working on for so many years, for 10 years, I've been trying to be, I was working on being an artist. But all the signs were showing to me that I'm not going to be an artist, that is not the path for me. And after I have sat myself down and asked myself that deep question of who am I? What is it that I want to be? What is it that I want to do? The answers started to come my way, and I started to see the patterns in my life. The patterns in my life that I started to see was, I like public speaking. I like to stand in front of a crowd and to give people value. I like to be of meaning. I like to give people advice about life situations, and I love to talk about deep conversations. Funny enough, the idea of being a philosopher is something that has come into my mind. Is that what I see myself as right now? We'll see that in the future, if that is eventually who I am. But what I do know, what I do love, is talking about these things. Bringing awareness to the people who actually have the potential to grow. But due to the fact that I've never really found people who were capable of doing that, I had to lower my energy, so to say, to then fit in. And that's the other problem, trying to fit in. You should never try to fit into a group. You should always be yourself authentically. No matter what you try to do, you will eventually stick out like a sore thumb. You will. If you are ambitious, if you are something similar to me, undoubtedly, people will pick up on who you are. And the thing is, the more you try to lower your energy, the more you will destroy yourself. So that is where acceptance comes in. Accepting the person that you are and not trying to be any different than you are, because otherwise you are again allowing your environment to influence you in the way that they would like to have you. Now that I have found out what I wanted to do, I've aligned myself as much as possible to exactly that goal. That is why I am on YouTube building a personal brand where I'm doing exactly just that. This feels natural to me. This feels good. This feels fulfilling. It feels like I'm making the right decisions for once in my life. It feels like I'm going, not fighting upstream, but going with the flow. I've never really understood that line up until I have asked myself those questions, when I've sat myself down and really reflected upon who it is that I want to be. And when you find out who you want to be, you must align yourself to it. You must take action immediately, and you will see that it will be easier to be consistent. You will see that it will be easier to eventually do the work, that less discipline is required for you to take action. Yes, of course, there will be days where you don't want to do the work. There will be days where you will experience negative emotions. There will be days where you will have doubts about yourself, negative thoughts. That's when you have to be disciplined. That is when you have to affirm yourself with positive words that you are on the right path, that you are doing the right thing, that you do not allow the negativity of the outside world to influence you in a way that it will destroy you. This is where discipline then comes in. Of course, you need to have the skill of discipline, but you don't need to be continuously disciplined to force yourself to do the work. You only force yourself to do the work when you feel a little bit of resistance to do the work. When you feel a little bit of resistance to do that what you want to do. It will always be here. It will always be present. But it will be 100 times easier when you know exactly that what you want to do. And if you don't know what you have to do, you just simply have to take action. You may have 10 ideas of what you think could be something for you. Take action on all of those 10 things. But do it once at a time, like one at a time. If you don't take action on all those things will be ideas and they will manifest inside of your mind, that you will never find out the thing that you want to do, and you'll be inconsistent in your life, in everything in your life. Because you're not being consistent in trying to figure out that what you want to do. So be very aware of that. So I want to thank you for watching this video. If you want to learn how to manage your emotional behaviors to make better decisions, click the link in the description box right now. Don't wait, don't procrastinate. Let's work together and make sure that you are aligning yourself towards your greatest self. All right? I want to wish you a very nice day. And remember that you are 100% responsible for the results in your life. Make the hard decision today, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye-bye.